So my name is Shruti Kuber, and I'm the developer advocate at MDFI. And today and of course, like MDFI is a IoT connectivity company. So today I'm going to talk to you about how do you do cellular IoT diagnostics with Azure. So I'm here mainly going to talk about, let's say, discuss about why do we use cellular? Why do we still use cellular? Let's say, what happens when your SIM card connects or your device connects through your SIM card to the network. And then we're going to talk about a use case, why you would need diagnostics, and then we're going to see how we would use Azure for cellular network diagnostics. And then we will be checking out what else can we do with this data. So to start with, in Internet of Things, like the Internet basically means that your devices, your IoT devices need to communicate with each other and with systems through a network, right? And for these devices to function properly, to do their job efficiently, they need to be connected over a network which is stable and secure. And so there are several ways you can connect your devices. So there's obviously the old ones, which is like Ethernet, Zigbee, and then there is Wi-Fi, of course, satellite, LoRaWAN, Sigfox. There's so many coming out, Bluetooth, of course. And so why go cellular? Like, why are we still sticking to cellular? And so the reason being, cellular comes across as the winner in like many ways. And the few of them is the first one is cellular is mobile. So of course, when you talk about Ethernet or something like that, you know, it's stable. I mean, it's static. You cannot really use mobile devices around them. And so Ethernet eliminates all the mobile use cases. Wi-Fi also in a way is static in the sense that it limits the range that your devices can move around if it's within the Wi-Fi network. And cellular, of course, it's mobile. Not only that, it can connect, it has roaming. So seamless roaming can allow your devices to connect with several networks within the same country or within different countries. And also when your device travels from one area to the other, where there are two different networks, the handover, the roaming is very seamless. So there's a very seamless handover from one network to another, one cell to another. Now, the second thing is security, which is super important. So cellular is secure like by default. So it has encryption by default enabled, whereas for Wi-Fi, you have to enable security. And so here I'm going to talk specifically about Wi-Fi because it's the more popular option, let's say. So Wi-Fi, you have to enable security to it. You have to enable the updates and etc. And while using cellular, what happens is your devices are separated from each other, even though, let's say, you have 1,000 devices in your fleet. And even though they're connected to this one cellular network, they're still isolated from each other. So if there is an attack, if there's an attempt to harm these devices, hack into these devices, and if they are capable of doing it to one of them, the others are isolated, and so you can save the others, let's say. But with Wi-Fi connections, the moment there's a breach in the network, all your devices are gone, basically. And then as you are attending Azure Bootcamp, I'm assuming you, of course, know the advantages of managed services. And so using cellular in a way is like using a managed service, because if there is a major update in the standards, or if there is a security update, there are people who are dedicated to improving the security of these networks, and they push this security update out towards all the networks, all the endpoints or SIM cards or whatnot. On the other hand, for Wi-Fi updates, someone has to physically go there and like install the update, make sure it's configured well. And when you talk about IoT devices, a lot of these use cases are when your devices or your endpoints are remote. And so you don't necessarily have someone who will go there, install this update. You don't know if they know enough about security and so on. So it doesn't help with this. So which is why having a managed update, managed service like this is definitely a boon. And then the third thing is coverage. So cellular definitely increases your coverage, especially in like remote areas and whatnot. On the other hand, there are these new, 2016, but let's say new standards like LTE-M and NB-IoT, which enable increased coverage, also like underground coverage. So if I have like a sub-metering system wherein it reads the electricity meter or something of the whole building, which is underground, you can use LTE-M or NB-IoT for that. If it's like between, let's say, too many metal sort of metal buildings and then like remote places. So NB-IoT and LTE-M is super cool use case for that, and it enables you with connectivity even in these, let's say, faraway places. And they work out of the box, right? You don't have to build extra infrastructure. You already have cellular infrastructure in place. So you just basically stick a SIM card into something and it works. And so it's really good for indoor use cases as well. And in this way, Wi-Fi has a much smaller restricted coverage for that. I mean, for example, I had like a clothes rack in between my router and my desk right now, or yesterday, and I couldn't stream video properly. So this is, I mean, you can imagine what other obstructions or obstacles are there in the real world where your devices are provisioned and stuff. So Wi-Fi definitely has then restricted coverage in a way. And the further you go away from the network with Wi-Fi, the weaker the connectivity is. So now that, let's say, we know that, okay, cellular is the way to go, let's figure out how it works, because we usually think that, hey, you put a SIM card in your phone and it works, and we often don't talk about how cellular works, or not everyone knows about how cellular works. And maybe I can give you some explanation as to how does cellular work in a way. So what happens is that there are many entities, but let's simplify it to, like, let's say there are 4 basic entities in this journey. So there's a SIM card, there is this the network itself. So then there is a signaling plane and the data plane in the core network. And then there is your application where the data is being sent. So now initially when you need to send data over the network, what your SIM card does is through the modem, it sends a signal that says, hey, I'm here, this is my ID, this is my and this is my ID. So it's an IMSI ID, and then it says, I want to connect with your network. Now the signaling plane checks this ID and sends an acknowledgement, checks it in through its database that, hey, is this SIM card allowed to be connected with my network? And if it passes the check, it says, you're good to go, you can connect. Once it connects to the network, it says, hey, I want to send data through your network. So it forwards this request, and the signaling plane checks that, hey, do you have enough data volume available? Are you allowed to use data? Do you have data roaming on? All these things, and then it says, okay, cool. And then the data plane extends this pipe or this channel, let's say, through which you would send your data. And once you send your data, this data then goes to your application over a public IP or a private IP, depending on what your configuration is with your network provider. And this is, let's say, the simplest form of how I can explain what cellular communication, how does it go about. But in reality, it is something like this. So there's a lot of components involved. There's a lot of handshakes, a lot of acknowledgements, a lot of authorization, a lot of back and forth from when you start, like when you switch on your device with the SIM card to sending the data itself, and then even after that. So there's a lot of that goes on, and then super complicated. But what you can see is there's a lot of messages that are being exchanged. There's a lot of data or metadata, if you will, that is exchanged before you can actually send your payload, and then also after you send your payload. And this data can provide a lot of information regarding the connectivity status of your devices, and also other things like usage, how much data have you used, how much data is left, how much data are you allowed to use, or are you allowed to connect to this network, this region, so on and so forth, right? But what happens when you are using normal connectivity providers? Let's say if you use a regular SIM that you have in your phones, or if you're using MNBOs, what happens is you basically see this. So you have your SIM card, you connect it, and the data reaches your application. You know when, let's say, your data stops and like it's offline, and that's about it. So what MDFI does is because it is cloud native, it has access to all these communications that happen inside. So all these, basically the core network has been implemented in cloud. And so you have access to all these transactions and messages and so on. And so what it does is it makes it available to you through the data streamer. And through the data streamer, you can access all this information and basically have more information, get more out of your cellular connectivity and into your applications. And I'm going to expand this a little bit more as to what data streamer is. But before that, let's take a look at an example. Why would you need this data? Why would you need this extra? Like, I mean, you just need the data from your sensors, right? Why would you need this extra cellular metadata in your application? So we've all seen this in the last year, that this evergreen was stuck in the Suez Canal, huge losses. And now imagine you were the owner of one of these thousands of containers on the ship, or you were waiting on something that was to be delivered through this ship. And you don't get paid until the consignment has reached the destination. And let's say you've not received any ping from your device in the last 3 days because it's been stuck for so much time. Probably you thought that the journey will take 15 days and it's been, I don't know, 25 days and you don't know where your device is. And so what you do is you try to see when it last connected and try to call someone on board, but like you don't necessarily have the numbers of people on the ship, right? So you call your network provider and you say, hey, my device is not pinging me, like it has not been live for some time. Can you check what's wrong? And they'll tell you that, hey, in our systems we can see it was online 3 days ago. And well you knew that you knew that already, which is why you called, right? And so then they'll tell you to turn it off and on again, the classic. But it's in the middle of the Suez Canal. Like you don't have anyone to go there who's going to open the containers, turn your device on and off. I mean, of course, that's not possible. So then what else can you do? You can tell them to check like the location that it was last seen. So you get this location of the cell tower that it was last connected to. You could get that information. But I'm not sure how it works in Europe or how it works in the US, but at least I know that in India, you have to lodge a complaint, a police complaint, official one, to get this, let's say the last tower, the MNC, MCC details that this was connected to. So what has happened is essentially you still have no idea where, I mean, if you don't already know if the thing is stuck in the canal, you don't know where your consignment is. You don't know where it was last seen, or you don't have any way to go to it and then fix it or something. And so you wasted a lot of time. You don't have the shipment, you don't get paid. So like, what do you do? And this is where the data streamer, the data from the data streamer, the metadata of this core network can be used. So what is the data streamer? So the data streamer is nothing but, like I said, the transactions from this core network were all packaged into these palatable messages or events or usage data packets. And it is streamed to whoever wants to consume it. And what these contains is messages like your phone tried to, or your SIM card tried to connect to the network. Your SIM card has changed location. Your SIM card is awake. Your SIM card is asleep. Your SIM card is activated, deactivated. How much data did it use? How much SMSs did it use? And lots of data. So there are about, if I'm not wrong, 49 events, 49 different events that get streamed from this data streamer. And you can access them through multiple endpoints. So there's the API, of course, there's webhooks, and then you have integrations in Azure, in AWS, and so on. So what you can do is directly take a look at this data, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's try to do diagnostics with the Azure. So I'm going to sign out. So basically, you want to bring this data to your event hubs, and I'm going to create this quickly. So I'm going to create a namespace first. Okay, my internet is awesome. Great. So I'm going to create a namespace. Let's say, and in my, let's call it demo bootcamp. My region is Western Europe. Project demo. Demo bootcamp integration. What did I leave out? Okay, so the basic tier, and I should be able to create a namespace if I were not live streaming. So let's give it, yeah, okay. And literally it just takes like about 5 minutes to integrate the data streamer into your event hub. If you have a good internet connection, that is. So let's see. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, I think you can write it down in the live chat. And yeah, someone will hopefully relay them to me because I can't see the chat yet. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you want me to go slower, if you want me to go faster, just write them in the chat and I'll answer them. Okay, let's see. Not a great idea to live stream while you're doing this, I guess. Okay, so my resource has been created. Now I'm going to create an event hub in this. So let's create an event hub. Let's call it MDFI data streamer hub. And just click on create. Again, this takes a second. Okay, now that we have this, I'm going to go into the event hub and I'm going to give it access policies because I want to then share this or basically drop the data streamer event data into this. So I'm going to say add policies. Let's say data streamer policy and send and listen. And creating a policy. This should be fast. Okay. Now that I have the policy, what I'm going to do is copy this connection string primary key So I'm just going to copy it, and then I'm going to use this to connect my data streamer from the MDFI portal into the Azure portal. So I'm going to go to mdfi.com, and when you sign into your portal, let's do this. I'm going to go to integrations. So this was mdfi.com/signup. So yeah, I'm going to go to integrations, and I'm going to click on add new data stream. And you have like a bunch of data streams that you can choose from. Of course, we're using Azure today, so I'm going to click on Microsoft Azure. You can select either stream data, usage data, or stream events. Right now, I want to know why my device isn't sending me any data. So I'm going to click on stream events, and you can choose from stream all events, or you can choose to stream specific events. So like create PDB context is my SIM card ready to send data? Has it stopped sending data? Has it disconnected? User authentication, is the SIM suspended, and all that. I think I'm going to stream all events for now, but it would be it's nice when you segregate them depending on what type of event. So I'm going to paste this connection string, which we copied from our policy in the event hub. So the connection string primary key, I've copied this, and let's rename it. So Microsoft Azure Event Hub for Bootcamp. And I'm going to click on create, and you can have multiple streams running at the same time. Now I created this data streamer connection or integration with the portal. You can always do it with an API. So if you go to mdfi.com/developers/REST API, you will see this. I'm going to put the links in the chat in some time. But basically, you can also create this integration with the API. Then you don't need to log into the portal in any way. So you can see this integration is running. So now let's go back to the data streamer. The event hub, and check on what is going on there. So you can see the event hub has been created, and I'm going to turn off and on my device to show you that there are some events that will be created here, or you know. So let's do this. So you should have some data in a minute. So what you'll see is some events popping up here in your messages which say that, hey, your data streamer has been connected, and you're getting messages. Let's see, hopefully we get something now soon-ish. Okay, I'm going to try to show you a different data streamer that I already created meanwhile, and we can come back to this one. So I'm going to check out something that I created earlier. Okay, this should be it. So again, same data streamer, and yeah, basically a lot of other devices are connected to this one. So there's a bunch of data going in. If you see in the last hour, I played around with the devices a little bit, and so there's a lot of events there. I click on this and I click on process data. I should be able to see the events. So let's query the events a little bit. This is like a basic query that says just show me all the data that has been coming in. Okay, so there's a bunch of events that came in, and if you see there is like event source, where did the event come from? So it came from the core network itself. So like I said, it was the signaling plane or the data plane. So it will show you which part did the event originate from. Was it an informational event? Was it a warning event? What was the event type? So then there is create PDP context, delete PDP context. So I've been turning my mobile data on and off. I have a SIM card in this phone and I've been turning it on and off to create these PDP context create events. And I have like the organization ID, all the operational stuff. And then you have this description that what exactly happened. So PDP context was successfully activated, PDP context was deleted, and so on and so forth. You have like all the data of the SIM ID, IMSI ID, what country is it in, what network within the country is it connected to, and so apparently right now I'm connected to Telefonica or O2 network and a bunch of other stuff, right? So you get all of this data and you can basically figure out that, hey, if I wouldn't be like, if I didn't connect or if I wasn't able to connect, I would get PDP context not connected or PDP context was not successfully activated. And then there would be a reason why this was not activated. So you can see basically reasons like you used up the data quota of that was assigned to your device. So you used up all the data, and which is why you're not able to send any more data. And then the moment you know that, you know, like, okay, it's not the connectivity issue, but the data issue, and you top it up. Now, in the integrations, I used the event usage data or stream events. If I were to create another event or another streamer with streaming usage data, what you could actually do is get details of how much data was used per day, per week, per month, in whatever way you want. And you could also use it to automate billing and then all those things. If you are like a middleware company or you know, like an integration company, integrator, what you can do is you can manage these devices and you can manage billing to your customers on the basis of like weekly, hourly, monthly charts, and then so on and so forth. So what you can also do is, now I'm gonna check on the older data streamer that we created. So let's go back to home. I think it was called Demo Bootcamp. Sure. Okay. So if you see, there's a bunch of data that has come in, or at least a few messages. Again, if you can go to process data and just query the data, you'll see the details of the data. Okay, permissions. Okay, so you see event type 5, 2, 3. Like I said, there are about 49 events at the moment. So you see update GPRS connection, delete PDP context. You have event severity, which is info right now. And if I'm to like exhaust my data, which I'm trying to do by playing YouTube, you will get the warning sign or alert sign, which will say that, hey, your data has been consumed. So maybe we can come back to see that event later when I'm trying to stream a little bit. But meanwhile, what I'm going to show you is what else can you do with this. So now that you have all this data within, you can do a lot more with that. So you can build dashboards where you're constantly monitoring connectivity of all your devices. You know which one has been basically provisioned, which one has not, whose billing cycle needs to be started, who needs to be topped up, and all those things. You can, of course, automate billing. You can do provisioning of devices. So often what happens is you take a SIM card, you put it in a device, you send it. And you don't want to charge your customers if they're not using the device, if they're just sitting in the warehouse or something. So you want to start charging them when they activate the device. So you can have automated provisioning through this when you get, so if your data is in the event hub, you can basically capture some of these events and add triggers to it, add actions to these triggers, which says, hey, if you get a create PDP context or you get a SIM activated device endpoint activated event, then start the billing for this particular customer. So you can do all these automations with it. You can, of course, monitor for any errors, any issues. If you get, let's say, if you get 5 PDP deletes in a row, you know that the connectivity of this particular network that the SIM card is connected to is not that good. And so what you can do is you can block that particular network and essentially ask your device to connect to another network in the same area. So you can do that. Again, like I said, you can manage operations in terms of you can connect this to your CRM and then make your operations easy on how to manage these SIM cards, IDs of these SIM cards, IMSI numbers, IMEI numbers of your devices and all that. And then you can also take corrective measures like preemptively as well to know that, hey, if you know that, this network is known to give some issues, you can already block that network or you can already take some corrective actions on some of the devices which might face issues. So one more thing I just experimented with is Power BI. So you can connect this event hub to Power BI and create dashboards. So I have this top 10 SMS consumption chart, top 10 devices with data consumption, bottom 10. So I know what my customers are doing. And if I see the bottom 10, I can basically say, hey, this customer needs a push. Maybe I can talk to them about a better data plan. If the top 10 one, I can maybe make a better data plan for them, which brings their costs down, and then they stay with us, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, you can play around with the data and create awesome dashboards for monitoring purposes. So let's see if I was able to create the data consumed event. Otherwise, more or less, we're done with the demo. So if you have any questions, just ask them. I'm not sure how you would ask them because I can't see the chat, but if someone can see the chat, you can relay the questions to me.
Hi, Shruti. I think there was just a greeting from New Jersey. Somebody saying you hi.
Hi. Okay.
So nothing in here, but probably you can share your social handles and people can ask you any questions there.
Sounds good. So before that, you can, if you want more Azure integration. So this integration I did is there in our portal. It's step by step. So you can go to mdfi.com/developer hub. So there's a bunch of integrations with Azure. So you have an integration with Azure IoT. You have an integration with event hubs, Power BI, time series. You have a bunch of integrations there. So you can check them out on the developer hub. You can also check out the MDFI blog, wherein I write about different use cases and how to get started with the Raspberry Pi and MDFI SIM cards and stuff. And if you want to stay connected, know more about our product and product updates, you can subscribe to the developer newsletter. And yeah, if you want to talk to me, you can just ping me at Kuber Speaking on Twitter. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that come later on, or you can just look for Shruti Kuber on LinkedIn. There are probably 2 Shruti Kubers in the world in LinkedIn, so take your chances. One of them is me, and yeah. Also, this is something. So if you want to give some feedback on the talk, if you liked it, if you would like to hear more about IoT or collect connectivity on IoT, you can scan this QR code and leave a feedback. And if you leave a feedback for the speaker, you can stand a chance to win a $20 Amazon gift card. So here's my speaker code, which is 653952. So go ahead and leave me some feedback. And yeah, that's about it, I guess. So enjoy your journey with MDFI connectivity in Azure.